we'd have to tell him, dude, this is too much. You have to refilm this. And he's like, nah.
Sounds for him, I want it to sound familiar.
We should make this sound like a baby crying in the beginning.
Did it ever since you shot that thing into the sky. The hell is it anyways?
Ghidorah, yes.
I wanted this Ghidorah to be very animalistic. Sure, there's that power hierarchy of Godzilla and Ghidorah, but it isn't the classic, oh, who's gonna be king of the monsters hierarchy. I try to make something more grounded. It's a food chain hierarchy. When we look at other scenes in kaiju movies, it's hard to tell a motive for the antagonists like Ghidorah when they start attacking. It's like, what provokes that? So here I try to make it more of a fight or flight response. So I talked to Mark, my sound designer for the Roars of Apex Ghidorah, and we talked and we thought we should make this sound like a baby crying in the beginning. It doesn't know what it's looking at. It's the first time here on Earth. So he goes to his instincts. He fights. I think the biggest question a lot of us fail to realize with Ghidorah is, where does it really come from? I mean, something like this, it looks like it's from Earth. So I took the route as if this creature is an animal. It lived on Mars, let's say. It was young, they nurtured it, the aliens nurtured it. And even if it was sent as a machine, they say, to terraform the Earth, I like to think that they didn't manufacture it at all. They didn't add any robotic or mind control elements to Ghidorah. I like to think that they nurtured this creature that they knew was going to be a predator, that it would just get frustrated easily. So it just gets temperamental and does the job for them. It terraforms the Earth for them without it even having the motive to necessarily do that. It's just doing its instincts as an animal. It looked at all those monsters lined up and he didn't see a fight. He saw a buffet. A lot of War of the Worlds inspiration. The 2005 one with Tom Cruise by Steven Spielberg. That is one of the most influential movies of my childhood. A lot of sequences reflect that movie in Apex. And I took a lot of inspiration, especially when a tripod comes out for the first time and it's just standing there. What is it gonna do? What is its motive? I did do a storyboard when the pod is just floating over the Kessler lab, where it's throwing off all these colors and it's almost going back and forth from like fourth to third dimension. A lot of inspiration of like things like we see on YouTube of like these Project Bluebeam holograms, this weird stuff, these conspiracies, just going off of that, just to give it that creepy vibe instead of just having it be a monster. I wanted to make it, I want to give it more of a horror element to Ghidorah and the ship itself. I mean, even the sounds it threw off, I found those sounds of this pod floating up there from this thing called the Dread Box. It's this musical instrument I found that is actually what produced a lot of the score of this movie. It didn't even sound like score, it sounded more like weird sound experimental stuff, where it just threw off all these mechanical noises, these very alien-like noises. A lot of the early scenes of Ghidorah landing were completely inspired by some of these videos here, hearing these trumpets in the sky.
So what are you hearing? Well, we don't really know. The strange sounds were heard across Terrace BC.
A lot of the big scale shots in the movie were all inspired by these sort of clickbait thumbnails of monsters in the distance, and I think honestly that's the best way to shoot monsters. Just showing them in the distance, just going across like it's in the clouds, that haze. I think that's the only way you could really give these things scale. It's that haze. Designing Ghidorah. when I started, I knew I had to use Ghidorah. He's the ultimate Godzilla villain, but I wanted to do something different. So for the longest time, I was going to use this Orochi figure. I looked at it though, and I thought this thing is way too stiff. Even the tail, like why even have articulation if it can barely move? I threw this figure away, and I looked at the Ghidorah 91 figure. Now I was going to use this one, and by this time I thought, maybe I should probably make a custom figure. So I was going to use this figure as its original bones for its skeleton. I could not make my own head. I don't think I had time for that. I needed to use the heads of the original figures, but with this 91 figure, it honestly just looks like a McDonald's toy. It just does not work. So I went with my Kaiser Ghidorah figure. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the forelegs, and I especially wasn't a big fan of these wings. They did not sprawl out with confidence, because that's what I wanted this Ghidorah to have. I was looking through my old book of Apex, and I could not find this original sheet, but this sheet had 8 designs for Ghidorah wings, and I showed it to several people, and they all chose that classic Ghidorah wing design, this one right here. And the worst one to them were these ones here. So, knowing that things worked out for me in the past, I chose the worst one, and I think it's the best one. I think it looks the most different out of all of them. I went for more of a bat, like a vampire kind of route. Ghidorah's never had arms, so I thought, how can I make this deadly? So he uses everything. He uses his wings to punch Mothra, he stomps on other monsters using his feet, his tails. He's got 2 abilities. He uses them to stab other monsters, took inspiration from Biolante's arms. And the blade, the energy blade it releases, that, I don't know where that idea came from, but it's just something that I thought of. And with the color scheme of all the beams, the gravity beams and the tail energy beams, they all stem from this theme of the purple he has, this purple and gold. Now I threw that as a color choice for most of its design. I've always thought it'd be interesting to see a purple Ghidorah. I didn't go full purple, I kind of went with a blend of gold and purple, and because you look at those colors, they're colors of royalty, it perfectly fit for Ghidorah here. I gave it some shades of purple, a bit of slight blue. It was all metallic paint I got from Michaels. I guess it's to make it a bit more alien-like. I didn't want to use just a typical color, I wanted to give it that shine. A big design choice was the Ghidorah pod. The thing that Ghidorah was encapsulated in when they sent it from Mars to Earth. Now, traveling from Mars to Earth, I didn't want it to just fly there like Ghidorah itself. I wanted to reflect the human's behavior of like capturing Godzilla, so they captured Ghidorah, put it in this thing, and shot it over the Earth. Now, making it, I have this booklet here. I've got some old design tests I did. It's funny because everyone thought it looked like the Batman symbol, the old one.
We're in the final days of Godzilla versus Apex Ghidorah for Godzilla Apex. I'm in the final weeks of filming. Last month, after the fight, I've still got a bunch of human scenes to figure out, but for now, we're close to the end for Hero Ghidorah. Wings already almost done for. Godzilla, we don't want to know what happened to him.
I decided to take the same process as Mushino. These silicone bottles. I have it right here. This gun here shoots this stuff. Let's turn on the house lights for a second so I can show you the bottle. This bottle right here. It's called silicone. You can get this at Walmart. And I decided to use a bunch of these bottles. This is what made up. It's pretty much rubber. These wings here were all styrofoam poster board you could get at Dollar Tree. I cut out the shapes, and then I just used that silicone all over it. I made the designs. You can't really sculpt this stuff to make it smooth, but thank God the Kaiser Ghidorah texture was already jagged and rough, so I just kept spraying layers of the silicone rubber stuff. It took about an hour to harden, and I sculpted it a bit just to make these veiny looking textures on the wings here. When it threw off its energy pulse, pushing all the monsters away, it turned the landscape into this red but purple-like look, almost like it spread its cells everywhere. Some weird biological stuff, man. The reason the crew grew bigger in this movie than movies like Mushino is because I ran into issues that I knew I wasn't going to be able to solve. I actually looked up a bunch of monster roars, and a lot of the stuff came from G-Team 2, Mark A. Tennant. And I just thought, hey, let's switch it over to him, and let's give him the roars, and let's see what he can do with them. So he gladly took on the project.
So, right from the get-go, I was very informed by the previews that Raph showed me that this Ghidorah was a force to be reckoned with. He was scary, he was killing people, he was destroying cities, and he was, you know, leveling monsters and just, you know, kicking ass and everything. So the sounds for him, I wanted to sound familiar, but also like, oh, that's disgusting. Like this sounds very alien. This sounds very terrifying, very scary. I don't want to trifle with this presence, this beast and everything. So what Raph wanted for me was something very, what he compared it as the Cloverfield monster, or the Cloverfield monster roar, or the tripod sound effect from War of the Worlds, the one by Spielberg. But a lot of it was from non-Toho sourced monsters, which was the biggest thing because Raph did not want a normal sounding Ghidorah, which I was a little dismayed because I love the Ghidorah sound effect. So it wasn't all peaches and cream with the roars, which is, you know, it almost sounds like an oxymoron. You think that, you know, you're sitting at a desk at a computer and you're like, oh, you just plug in the roars, it's that simple. Well, it's not that simple when, you know, you have a very specific kind of sound that your director wants, and sometimes you don't know exactly how to go about that. What specific sound that he could possibly want. My favorite thing to bring up is when Ghidorah was laughing towards the final climax of the film where he's killing all the monsters, making Ghidorah laugh in a way where it sounds like he's laughing, having fun, enjoying slaughtering these monsters. It sounded impossible to me. I actually didn't know how to go about that, and I played with so many different sound effects. There were some other hard moments, but that kind of takes the cake because, again, how do you make a monster laugh? I don't know, but I did it, and that's part of the reason why, like, you know, I feel proud of that. But holy hell, it got really, really rough sometimes, but that's what it takes to kind of, like, you know, pull something like this off.
A lot of limbs needed to move. The necks, I wanted them to move all 360 degrees. I did not want this articulation one way kind of deal. So I had these little like pin needles with balls at the end. I attached wire to that from fishing wire, really thin stuff. I tried to find the thinnest fishing wire I could. I was doing something along the lines of this off screen, and we take that footage and we just cut all the wires. That's what a lot of what Chris and Cam did in this movie. I'll let some of these guys talk about it.
Okay, so removing the wires for Ghidorah was sometimes easy, but then sometimes it was really hard because I had to go frame by frame to paint out the wires, but sometimes the wire would be in front of Ghidorah's neck or other monsters, and since it's going over textures, it's a much harder time trying to paint out the wires because you'll see distortion. I would send so many drafts. I'd think they'd be finished, but then Raph would see a little speck of a wire and he'd send it back. It took a long time. The wire removal process was very heavy in the final battle. And I told Raph, listen, from the way things are going right now, the way things are progressing, there's no way we're going to get this out in time. We need to get a second person. And so we got Cameron, Camps to Rook.
Chris had to save me a lot because I was really new to some stuff. I didn't know what Mocha was when I first started, because I was on the alien shot where he gets shot. So if I was like messing up, you'd be like, hey, no, this sucks. And he would show me how to do it, even though it completely demoralized me. But it's okay, because in the end I got it.
I taught him how to remove the wires. We both figure out many ways to remove wires.
So sometimes the wire removal tool just doesn't work, alright? So what do? We make a clean plate. What was the other one?
Blurring.
Oh, yeah, there's blurring it. So I would just
blurred
blur the wire, and that's it. And then I would just, like, whenever the wire moved, I would put the blur over the wire. And that mainly worked in smoke shots, because in smoke you can't really see much.
There are 3 heads, so there are 3 wires. But for some reason, other wires would pop in there because he just didn't take it out. We'd have to tell him, dude, this is too much. You have to refilm this. And he's like, nah, you got this. And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't got this. And he's like, do it anyway.
I'm in charge!
Battle 1 was hard because for some reason I had exams that same week. So I had to somehow fit in doing effects and study exams at the same time. It was mostly just me and Chris either arguing on if we could trade each shot. And in the end, we did trade shots.
And, I didn't do anything.
But I think overall, we all worked good as a team, because if one of us was slacking, we would be honest and be like, yo, get your stuff together. And in the end, it worked, which I think that's the main part. That's all that matters, is that all 3 of us working together in the summer, staying up till 6 a.m. for a whole month worked out in the end, and it all built up to have a really good moment.
But it was good, and it was good because it allowed me to gain experience. I know how to do a lot more stuff now that I didn't know how to do. Raph pushed me to my fucking limit, but it was a good reason.
Cursing. This is a children's show. And that's it. That's who Apex Ghidorah is. A lot more BTS coming. Put your comments down below. What do you want to know about this movie? Because I got some ideas of what other BTS stuff to do, but what do you guys want to know? Because I got some ideas from Atomic Productions on what I would talk about with Ghidorah, but I want to know what aspect of the movie you'd like me to expand on. Anything, and I'll make a video on it. But that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you want, give it another rewatch of Apex, and let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Godzilla 621 signing out.